Hello, and welcome to She Reads Monthly Podcast, where we interview women authors and their books. My name is Laura Foley. I am your host. And joining me tonight is my co host, Connie Kersey. She is a wonderful woman who's been helping the organization Healing Waters Global. She's been a blogger. She's posted many great stories about her life and the things that she goes through. And she really inspires a lot of women. So we are really excited to have her tonight. And also joining us, is our founder of Healing Waters Global, Dr. Bernita Mitchell. And so she will be joining us tonight. And tonight we are actually having our featured author, JD, and she's going to be discussing her book, Dear Single Woman. And I have the book right here, so you can see it's called Dear Single Woman, Messages of Inspiration and Self-Love. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I have a question for you. And again, if anyone has questions, please fire away. What I was curious about is what inspired you to write this book?
I don't think it started as a single moment. I was kind of sitting around one day and I just almost as if I was talking to my past self, like what were the things I would have told my younger self after well over a decade of being in the dating world.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a young goddaughter, and what are the messages I'd like for her to hear, and other, not just young women, but as I started really forming this into a book, I wanted to reach single women of all ages. I happen to be surrounded by so many women who are at different phases of their life, who find themselves, for whatever reason, single. And I kind of felt like society really puts the pressure on to be married and have children, and that you have to have both to really be an adult.
It's true.
And I remember I was sitting, there was a moment actually that I think maybe was an initial spark, where I was sitting with a friend and somebody that they knew, and they were saying, well, that's what you do, you get married and have kids. And I'm sitting there in the back going, well, I didn't. Does that mean I'm not part of the club? I'm not part of the women's club?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Right.
and it was just kind of baffling to me at how in this day and age we still have that mentality that you must, to be a complete, full, happy, whole woman or man, have to be married and have kids. And there's a lot of reasons, a lot of very valid reasons why they don't happen for everyone.
True.
So I think that was the initial spark of like speaking not just to my younger self, but other people who are in that same boat, and that it doesn't have to be this lonely, isolated experience, that I don't feel as if I'm missing something in my life. I don't feel sad or lost. And I wanted other people to know that they could choose that happiness for themselves, however they find it.
Yes, I definitely think that's definitely important because again, like you said, it's kind of almost like a stigma, where if we're not married or, if we don't have children, then people kind of think like, oh, you don't relate, and you're just not going to get there. And the point is, we're all there. We're all women. We should all be supporting each other. But even if we don't have kids and we haven't been married, doesn't mean we still can't, function in society, or we can't support other women, and that we're not strong. We're just as strong regardless.
That's true. And JD, it also, and you probably know this, it includes women like myself who have been divorced for 41 years, and it's like, okay, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean? You didn't get married again. You're not in a committed relationship. There's something wrong. And even the guys are like, oh my God, that many years, and it's almost like it is a stigma too. Even though I've been married, I've been divorced, I've raised my children, right?
Yeah.
As a single mom, but I chose not to commit because I just haven't seen the right person that is worthy of my love. But that is a problem for people. You know, they really like kind of freak out, like, oh shoot, what's wrong with you? Like, why? Something's wrong with you that you didn't get married again in all those years, you know? So it continues beyond, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think there's pressure no matter what stage of life you're in. Even
Mhm.
if you're married, then people start asking, well, when are you having kids? And there's plenty of childless couples who choose it for a variety of reasons, or maybe they've tried and can't. And so then why, why should there be that pressure on them
Yes.
to have children when frankly, those of us who don't have children, and I didn't purposefully set out to not be married or have kids, just kind of where I found myself at this point in life, dated a lot. But it kind of turns out that even had I gotten married, I found out much later that I probably would have had fertility issues.
Mm.
Mm.
And I
Mm.
now later we haven't diagnosed it yet, but there's some sort of autoimmune issue that causes me to be extremely fatigued very easily. And I think, oh my gosh, if I had had kids, how would I have handled that?
Mm.
Like that wouldn't have been a great experience for them. I have enough energy to kind of get me through the day. Some days I'm great and it's no problem.
Mm.
And other days it's very difficult. So I think, wow, I'm kind of lucky that I don't have that added pressure. Um, but there's people who just they parent everyone else and they parent in different ways. They nurture their friends, their family, their coworkers, and they're nurturing in so many other ways. And they contribute that mothering or parenting instinct to the greater society instead of a nuclear family. And I think it's
Mm.
very easy to discount that contribution.
It's true. And a lot can be said to how what we define and view as woman, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and it's and you would know your generation, my generation, Connie, all of us, you know, this is rhetorical. What were we taught
Yeah.
is a woman, right?
Mm.
Like you said, JD, at the top of the conversation, you were saying, you know, we have this impression that we're supposed to get married, we're supposed to have a child, fairy tale, all of that, and it's really being crushed because the younger generation they're not falling for that.
No.
They're not rushing to get married. There's a lower rate of children being born today than in the past whatever amount of years. So the younger women are waiting. They're getting their careers out. You know, my generation, like with me, Connie, and well, that was not the case. You weren't really encouraged to put a career
Mhm.
first, right? Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And plus, I think when you look at being single, I thought about first of all, I love how you wrote the book because you wrote it in so many. You had so many different areas that as a single woman that we need to look at. And one area I really thought about was um, I really didn't have anybody to teach me how to actually be or how to be single.
Yeah.
Everybody in my age group was married. Um, Along with the fact I was dealing with being molested,
Mm.
and that added another um problem to being single.
Oh, yes.
And um, dealing with all the issues after I looked at it, I was thankful that I was single because but this was years later.
Yeah.
All the process of, when I was younger, of course I wanted to get married. But when I got in my 50s and 60s and 70s, I really was thankful that I was not married because I had gone through so much,
Yeah.
and I really didn't begin to see who I really was until until I got in my late 50s and 60s. And in
No,
my 70s, I really started enjoying life, really understanding who I was and just walking in my purpose.
You know,
I have to,
I'm
I
getting
have,
goosebumps.
I have to agree with that. And I loved what you said, Connie, about the fact that women are not taught how to be single. And I'm in my 70s and I'm now just starting to enjoy life.
Wow.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
And, you know, I
And
do
it's
feel,
exciting.
Mm.
and I feel that affects men too. You know, I know that this is a women-centric group, but I do feel like there are so many young men and older men out there who don't know how to be themselves. There's so much social media pressure on all sides for every gender, every person, that you're getting told who to be, what to be, and it's hard to hear your inner voice.
Mhm.
And, you know, I do think the younger generation, in some ways, they have realized some of the BS that's been handed down to them, but they're also blind in other ways to the social media BS, like the picture of the perfect home, the perfect lifestyle, the perfect,
Yes.
perfect, perfect. Life is not perfect, and frankly, it would be boring if it were.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I
And
agree.
in reading your book, you addressed a lot of that. I mean, I was laughing through parts of it,
oh,
especially when, and I don't know which chapter or which area, but when you talked about being a mess and um, myself, I looked at people, when I looked at other women, I always thought that they had it together.
mhm,
But as I got older, I realized, like you said in your book, we all got mess going on.
Mhm.
Some of us just cover it up so much easier.
yeah.
Some of us can fake through the process. But when you think about it, all of us got some mess, especially single women, you know? And so we're much harder on ourselves because we're single and we don't have anybody. Well, I didn't have really until I got older anybody to really um punch that stuff out with, so to
Yeah.
speak, you know? And so I laughed at that because I'm like, why did I go through that? I
Aw.
was always thinking everybody else was so much better than me. Well, they're just a mess just like I am,
Yeah.
I think
you
you
know?
might be, Connie, I think you might be my twin sister. But I do have to
Yeah.
say one thing. I also see, having now I'm in my 70s, and I see that women are their own worst enemy. And
Yes.
I don't mean to be political, so if I offend anybody, I'm sorry. But I cannot understand any woman who would support Roe versus Wade. Because
Mm.
if you've ever watched
Wait, you mean
my,
taking it down?
yes,
Okay, there, yeah. Just wanted to
I,
clarify.
I, I don't understand that, because now you're saying that your daughters and your sisters do not deserve a safe way, a safe abortion.
Or just simply bodily autonomy. It's a very slippery slope.
And
Yes.
there
Yes.
are a lot of there are these women out there who are self-righteous, who are making it bad for every other woman out there. I don't understand. And when the Supreme Court, my mother, I'm talking, and Jennifer and I made her sit through watching PBS's Called Midwife. And I sat through it and I cried through the first season, because every single story on that first season my mother could have written and told me about
Mm.
and had gone through with her friends, and the illegal abortions. And I look at that and I think, I cannot understand how any woman could want their daughters to go through that, and why you would ever want to bring us back 50 years. So we also have that. And then you have the woman who says, oh, yeah, she's single. There must be something wrong with her. So
Yeah. I think they're very quick to assume promiscuity.
yeah,
But yet only takes once. It doesn't take being promiscuous. And again, it's a very slippery slope. Like
yeah,
at which point does the judgment stop? And at some point, those people who are judging, their rights will eventually be limited, as it's slowly it's a slow creep. Actually, it's been a very quick creep in the past few years, but I think it goes back to old programming. Laura, we were talking about doing a release later. That's one of the things I was thinking of doing releasing with is old programming,
Yes.
mental programming that we have, whether you're single, married, just as a woman, that programming that you have that society has told you defines you, when really we're more than just one thing. We are more than a uterus. We are more than our breasts. If people there are women who've had hysterectomies or mastectomies who go through immense emotional trauma
That's right.
because society has defined that that's where your value is, and that's not where your value is.
And
We
I'd like to build on what Anne said too, that and I'm kind of pitching my book a little bit because I talk about patriarchy, because this has been male defined, right? I not love men, have 5 brothers, have a son raised by a dad and a mom. So it's not about bashing men, but
No.
patriarchy, which is simply power over women, right? And our
but the
bodies.
problem is,
They actually created the standard in the culture that tells
yes,
us to do
but
these
the problem is you have idiot women out there who support that kind of train of thought.
That's true.
Because it's the programming. It's
It
faulty
is absolutely.
programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bell Hooks said it this way. She said that patriarchy has no gender because women are embracing it. And to your point, Anne. And so the thing is, and I'll just say this really quick because I stumbled on some information when I was doing the research on the book that early on, just specifically in terms of abortion or women's bodily autonomy, early on, the research showed that women were midwives, right? There were many women doing that were midwives. Actually, my great grandmother was one. I want to learn more about her. I don't know much, but they were midwives. They did abortions and they delivered babies. However, there was this need for men to take control of it. And so what they did was they set up the anti-abortion laws. See? So this, there's money involved, there's the source, there's the cultural difference, there's a way of controlling women's bodies and anything that we do. And what we did was we bought into it because our mothers taught us or somebody taught us, or we, like Connie said, no one taught her. But it's in the culture.
I think it goes back even farther than that to look at the witch trials. A lot of them were midwives. A lot of them were local healers.
Absolutely. I talk about them,
yeah, the local wisdom. And as the medical industry became what it is back in the 1600s, as men started being like, oh, wait, what, this is something we should be doing.
Right.
So like you have almost waves of it,
Yeah.
of where common sense is seen, but then it's lost again,
and it reinvents itself too.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Ladies, you do understand that the Spanish Inquisition was to eradicate the midwives.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big part of it for sure.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of power in being able to do this. And so there's this insatiable thirst for power, right? And I'm talking about men in this instance. So of course, let me control women, let me control their bodies, right? Let me control even their wealth. Because if they're making money off of being midwives, hey, we want some of that. And so it just kept reinventing itself. And here we are today. It never stopped. It never stopped, even during the women's suffrage movement, even, of course, after slavery, it never stopped. It is a symptom and a tool of patriarchy, oppression, and misogynistic thinking and so we've bought into it. And women are sitting around, saying, oh my God, You know, like we talked, top of the conversation, I don't have a child, that must be less than. Where did that come from? So there's a whole history. This is,
Yeah.
you know, we didn't just arrive at this place, you know. But it's changing because women are fighting. Women have always fought back. Yeah.
And again, I
and
think that that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, so that, you know, people, women, and again, I tried to make it, you know, friendly to if a man decides to pick it up. So men out there, if you're listening, give it a read.
Right. Yes.
And the sad thing is I actually thought of doing one for, you know, Dear Single Man. But the sad thing, because of the patriarchy and the way society is, there's not a lot of men who would pick it up to read.
I
Which is
wonder,
why,
you don't think so?
no, not yet. Maybe in 20 years, 15
Hmm.
years. Um,
not yet.
But
but
you know what? I'll tell you, JD. Honestly, there's one of our donors who
mhm.
supports Healing Waters. He comes on my author's page all the time, and he's just enlightened now about women. You know, he's been reading some of the posts. You know, I do a lot of
Oh
questions,
no, I do
and I think
believe that there's men out there who would.
uh-huh.
I just don't think there's enough yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm definitely
No,
going to.
I absolutely, I would encourage men, because the tips and the tools that I put in this book could very easily be flipped around.
Well,
Um,
consider doing a either have you done a podcast or have you do you have an author's page? Because well, I'm definitely going to. I haven't read the book. I haven't had a chance, but I am going to buy some copies. And a couple of men that come on my page who are really sensitive to the needs of women and what we go through, and they're like, "Oh my God, I didn't know I did that." I think I'm going
I
to
do
send them
have an
copies
author
of.
page.
I'm going to send them a copy of your book, honestly, because
Oh,
yeah,
that is awesome.
that's how we do it, though. You know, one at a time, right?
Absolutely. I do have an author page, and I have it up on my website. I will send links to Laura, and if you want to put it on the
Thank you.
YouTube description,
I will.
we, you know, we can do it there, or just even direct links to the Amazon. Um, but yeah, I have a few pages out there.
Okay.
Things are in flux right now, and I'm kind of reorganizing my online presence. So I want to give the one that I think will be the most consistent. So no matter at what point they click on it, they'll be able to get to the right page.
That's great. Because Laura posts it on my page. You know, we promote women authors and writers. So it's on there, and I'll just add to it. And we can do that, right, Laura?
Yes,
Oh, that is
definitely.
awesome.
Yeah, that's
I think
good.
that would be a
That's how,
phenomenal idea.
yeah, that's how we do it, though, right, JD? You have to spread the word. Marketing is everything.
And I also, you know, for any of your fellow authors who are listening right now or later, I do have a writers group on Facebook that I run,
Right.
and it's mostly women, you know, and we share actual, like, just writing kind of tips and tools, and I have writing prompts for them. So it's something that, you know, if they want to kind of sharpen their writing skills and just have fun with other writers, that is a resource that's available.
Wonderful. Laura, we'll link that up, right?
Yes, because I know I'll hop on.
And maybe there's some
Yay.
women in your group who would
Me
like
too.
to promote their books
Yes.
if they published. You think?
Yeah, every Monday, we have Monday Madness, and we allow people to freely post their links and to kind of share. So this way, anything that they're working on, it can be blogs or podcasts, that's talking about their books and their writing, and, you know, anything promotional. So we do that every Monday.
Awesome. So Laura, we could find out if there's some women authors who were published, and we can you can do a monthly podcast with them.
I think that would be awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thanks,
Hey,
JD.
oh, love that.
Thank you. That's great.
You
Um,
know, and reading the book, um, like I had mentioned before, I laughed in parts. I thought it made me think about some things. But the one thing I loved about the book, it was real.
Mm,
Um,
thank
you
you.
didn't you didn't gloss over stuff. Like you told the truth about feelings and
Mm.
things that we go through as a single woman. And on page 126, it talked about having the greatest love affair of your life will be with yourself.
Oh, yes, I remember that one.
Love that.
Yes, and it says you will have days when you cannot stand yourself, when you want to break up with yourself, and your relationship, and I don't think you really get the full understanding of your relationship with yourself until you really start understanding who you are. And as you start walking and you get a little bit more wisdom, okay?
Yeah.
But like I said, I just love the fact that you wrote honestly about things that we as single women go through. And
Thank
that
you.
was one of them. Just really being a
Ah,
patient with yourself, trying to understand yourself, but really just having a rich love affair with who you really are and
yeah,
getting to know you. Because if you don't know you, how can you really be any good to your
mm,
partner or even people that you come in contact with life? And that's one thing I love about myself. I love to tell the truth,
yeah,
whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. Bernita, you know that. I
Yes.
don't gloss over stuff, even in my blogs.
yeah,
Some things may be a little rough to hear, but you know what? It's the truth. And so that's one thing about being a single woman that we have to learn that, you're going to have your good, your bad, your ugly, and all of that. But it is all making you the woman that you're meant to be.
yes, absolutely. I try to keep it um written in a way, again, written in a way that I'd want my like 20 something year old self to have heard. And I'll tell you, this past few months, Laura, we're friends on Facebook and you've seen a couple of my posts, and I actually she posted one of the things that I wrote, leading up to this, and I went, "Oh, I need to reread that. I need to relook at that." Because I was going through and I've been going through a bit of a difficult time emotionally, and it was like, so even though I was kind of writing to my past self, I also was writing to my future self, and any other people who might be in that same spot, at any point. And I did, you were saying like I kind of tried to cover all topics, and I did, because there are so many different facets to being single. Sometimes it's just practical stuff like how to run a household. Like, we're not always given that guidance. We're not always, you know, taught that. I was very lucky that I was, but there's frankly some things that until you're living it, no amount of advice is going to be of use until you're in the middle of it. You're like, oh.
Mhm.
Or the other thing I tried to talk about was dating at different ages.
Mhm.
We we, just because it says single woman, it's not like single and not dating. It's we may hit the dating world, and what does that look like, and what can it look like? um so I did try to hit as many different aspects as possible, without being redundant, um without without saying the same thing over and over again. um but yeah, it's thank you. It's nice to hear from kind of a reader's perspective, and from the other side of it.
I have, as I mentioned, I will be reading the book, but did you broach the subject of single women when you're talking about dating? Because
Oh
it's
yeah.
complex. Because
Yes.
if you're,
Yeah.
you're of a certain age and you're dating, if you're a guy and you're dating a younger woman, it's more acceptable. If you're an older woman, you're dating a younger guy, then people looking at you cross-eyed. There's a whole lot of complexity in that. And, I don't know if this is something you thought about, but as I'm listening to Connie and listening to you share, um, Connie knows this. We've been friends since high school. We talk a lot, and there really, how many spaces are there for women to to a safe space where they can really talk about relationships, right? Being
Yeah.
single, and really like Connie does. She's honest. I mean, she's just very transparent, and she is vulnerable, which is a strength. And so
Yes.
we need spaces where, you would probably be great at this, JD, to have a group, a little support group where for single women called Dear Single Woman. And
Well,
we can come.
that is a very, very big possibility coming in September. I'm going to give you guys a little update, a little preview. I'm in the middle of kind of restructuring and rebuilding kind of what I have. For those who don't know, I've been doing coaching, and I have like a metaphysical space,
Mhm,
but I'm also kind of restructuring into more of a self-healing
mhm,
and self-exploration space. And so that is something that I have been contemplating, including a podcast. So in September, keep an eye out. There will be, I'll probably post a comment on the video with any updated information, but keep a lookout in September. That is something that I am contemplating in terms of bringing Dear Single Woman into more of a community,
mhm.
and less
Nice.
of just a flat two-dimensional object.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's excellent. Because you know what, and what we do with Healing Waters when we have our retreats, especially,
Mm,
we ensure that you and women are not judged when they share,
yeah,
right? Oh, well,
yeah,
I dated 50,000 married men, or I did this thing, when I was high and whatever. It matters little whether they're survivors, right?
yeah,
It's about being a woman and what you do, and being in a space where you're not judged.
yeah.
That's going to be awesome when you do that. And maybe we can talk about this at another time, Laura and I and Connie, about when we get back to retreats, when it's more careful and out there in terms of COVID. When we do another retreat, we can also at some point have you come and do a workshop with the women,
Oh, that would be fabulous.
right? I think that
Yes,
would be.
definitely. It'd be very important to have.
Mhm.
Oh, that would be awesome.
It's needed. We have to spread the love and spread the word. We're not keeping it to ourselves, and usually it's us who have gone through it, and now we can say, hey, this is what I did, but I'm going to show you another way that's not going to be devastating and send you back 20 years. So
Yeah.
my best teachers are the ones who've been through what they're talking about, not just
And,
like you said, three-dimensional writing a book. No, but you've been through it. And then
and
you're saying, I'm still dealing with some of the issues, right?
oh yeah. Well, and I think we always do. Again, happiness and joy and grief and sadness come in cycles. They come in waves.
Mhm,
Sometimes the cycle or wave lasts a little bit longer than others. I'm very much about being proactive though, and moving through, not erasing,
mhm,
not suppressing. I think it's very important that we deal with it and we take the time to properly deal, but then move forward to release, and kind of like we were talking about before, releasing those things that are no longer serving us,
yes,
that are kind of holding us in an old space that we don't exist in anymore. Because we are kind of reinvented every day. We are a new person every day, and sometimes we'll bring some of the old with us, and that's okay, but then a natural, almost like a shedding process happens when it's like, okay, I'm now, and that's actually kind of where I am right now, and kind of why I'm restructuring, because there was some energy that was just no longer in the vibration that I need to be in. So I'm like, okay, it's time for a change. And let's face it, the world is changing. The world needs healing, and the world needs
yes.
people to know how to heal themselves.
Mhm.
So no, it is very needed.
Can you tell us how we can connect to our inner me?
Oh, you know what? For each person, that's a different journey, but one of the quickest ways is being still, is putting your phone down, turning your computer off, going out into nature or going within, I've actually started in the middle of the day, when I find that I have a break, I've started going for walks again. And there's a wonderful little spot I found, and I just kind of sit and I let the sun soak in. And it's starting to really listen to your body, your mind. What do you need in that moment? Do you need to take a breath? Do you need, and if you're, let's say you're at work, your me isn't going anywhere. So finding that inner me, it's necessary at all times. So let's say you're having a stressful day at work. There's obviously moments you can't step out, but let's say you had an tough interaction with a coworker or boss. You may or may not be heading into a triggered trauma or panic mode or anger, and you need to stop, assess what your body is feeling. If you're feeling tense, go for a little walk, do some breathing activities. If you are feeling anger, go for a run. Running, if you're able to go for a run, or listen to some drumming. I highly recommend having some earbuds or earpods and earphone around. Take 5 minutes, listen to some drumming. Listen to music that will help get it out. And even better, when you're out of work, go to a drumming circle. Gosh, there's so many ways, but it depends on the person. Some people need to connect emotionally, and that's when doing some quick meditation or breathing helps. But if you store your anxiety and anger and emotions physically, you need to do something physical to really get it out of your body. And then once you get that anger out, it's going to be easier, or grief or whatever it is you're kind of dealing with in that moment. Once you get it out, all of a sudden you're going to be able to hear yourself. I also suggest finding your tribe. I am very lucky that I am surrounded by some very strong, wonderful women who are able to kind of help me to quiet my mind, to help me bounce those ideas off of. You were talking about you didn't have anyone to bounce ideas. I'm very lucky that I do. But being able to find that group of trusted people, and honestly, that group should be small. It should be small. The amount of people you trust with your business. And you also need to make sure that they don't have any personal agendas, so that when you tell them something, they're not trying to sway you one way or the other. They're there to listen. They're there to say, hey, have you noticed this about yourself recently? Have you noticed that you've been sad, or you haven't been your normal excited self? Are you okay? Sometimes having somebody just ask that question helps you to then stop and go, oh, am I okay? Ask yourself that question. That's another way to get in touch with yourself, is ask yourself, talk to yourself. Talking to yourself is healthy. It is not crazy, friends. Talk to yourself regularly. Again, that's having that rich inner life. Journal. I've actually recently just started journaling again. I don't do it daily. I do it every few days. And recognize what works for you. I recognize I will never be a daily journaler, but I do enjoy writing, clearly. I wish I could say that I wrote Dear Single Woman in I wrote one of these letters a day. Now, I had writing spurts where I would write sometimes 20 of these letters a day, and then I didn't touch it for a year. And then I'd go back. And so so again, I know you have a lot of authors on here. And I will tell you, there's a lot of author shaming too, where people are like, you need to write 2,000 words a day or 200 words. No, you are always writing, even when you're not writing. The book is forming itself in your mind, even when you're not writing. I've been listening to a ton of Audible recently, and oh, that's my doggy. I've been listening to a ton of Audible, and it's very interesting. As I'm listening to character development. I'm listening to descriptions. How is this author tackling that scene? How is it? So as authors, whether you are blogging, if you're blogging, oh my gosh, you're taking experience from every moment in your life. And so we are writing and we are creating even when we're not actively doing it, but giving yourself the space and the time And putting those electronics down, I think, is one of the best things you can do. I was better at it. I'm starting to get back to it. I even if it's one day a month, one day a week, find your time. Oh, and for goodness sake, when you're out with your girls or your people or your tribe, put your phone down. They want to see your face. Put your phone down. Nobody wants to see the back of your phone. So I'm just saying, again, being real here, have real connections with real people. Phones are great. Love them. When I'm out with somebody, I try to have it in my purse, put it away. If there's an emergency, that's different, but most of us are not having emergencies 24/7. Put them down. Just saying. So yeah, those are some of my go-to tips. And certainly for anybody else who's on, do you have any tips that you do to kind of get in touch with yourself?
Well, for myself, I think I may not always do it at work because sometimes it's, a little bit hard, but I admit that on occasion when I can, I take a moment at work and I'm just like, okay, thank you, to my spiritual team for being with me and for making this day so awesome. Even if it's not 100% how I wanted it to go, or if I'm frustrated, I just have to remember to, instead of grousing about, God, why did it turn out this way? To thank them. Thank you, for the experiences. Thank you for the day. And then I try and let them know, hey, I'm still remembering you, even though I'm grousing. And that works for me. But then when I get home, putting on the meditation music, and YouTube is great. There's 100 self-healing collective and Zen Life, Relax. There's a ton of ones that were older that I used to listen to that I love. And, and I just kind of put those on and I listen to those. And Milan Moritis, she is really good with that. And there's a lot of beautiful people out there. So that helps me kind of, unwind and be a little more focused during the day, because I can be very scatterbrained by the time I get home. And then I'm doing work like I was last night at the table. And in the midst of telling Dr. Bernita that I was going to go to bed, I was like, oh, I got to start posting about the podcast. And I did. But the only thing that was coming up on all the pages was Zoom and how to if you want to join Zoom. And I was like, no, that's not what I wanted. So I and then 35 minutes later, I was sleeping. I was still asleep at the table. And I was like, God, did I do any work at all? And I didn't. So then I had to wake myself up and repost everything and then make sure it didn't say just Zoom, and then, kind of move on. So yeah.
That's a good moment of listening to your body. And it's certainly something that I've been working on more, is that when I'm tired, trying to get up, and anybody who's close to me knows I have sleep issues. Bad. So you will find me up at most hours, but if I need a nap, I kind of stop what I'm doing. It's like, okay, now if I'm home, don't do this at work, people. But when I get home, if I'm trying to do something or accomplish something, but I'm exhausted, kind of the way you're describing, honor that. Listen to your body, honor it, go to bed or take a nap. Be like, okay, I'm going to set my alarm. And I'm going to allow myself this moment to rest, and I'm going to listen to my body. So I think listening to the mind, and that is how I think the noise is, I need to get this done. The self is saying, I need to get sleep done.
Yes.
So there is how you listen to yourself. Nutrition, it's the same thing. And we all have things, and I don't care how evolved a person is. As you said, we all have our own mess. Even the most put together person, they could look healthy, beautiful, strong. Well, okay, maybe their physical body is in great condition, but maybe their emotional self is not quite there yet, or their financial self. There's lots of selves. There's lots of what we call bodies. I am a coach, and we talk about the emotional body, physical body, spiritual body. But there's so many layers of self-care. For some people, self-care is going out and getting their hair and nails done, but for other people, it's sleeping. Or for other people, it's especially if anybody who's dealing with depression or trauma, which I know a lot of people that you deal with and that you guys work with are dealing with some pretty heavy trauma. Guess what? Self-care for them might be getting up and having food that day, or getting up and getting the laundry on. Self-care is not always about, the surface, and the surface is important. The exterior of our body is important. I was watching this YouTube channel, and this one woman, she helps people who basically have matted hair, and she helps, and it's almost life-changing watching them go through it. And they have all of these reasons and excuses, and there she is without judgment. She's like, no worries. One person was depressed for a year, and just their hair was the last thing they were thinking about. And so we think of like, oh, I need a haircut. This person didn't even run a comb through their hair because life was weighing them down that much that the comb was not in their radar. It was like, get up, get food, get through the day. And that was it.
Do you remember going to get fitted for your prom, your junior prom?
Mm-hmm.
And she told you that you had the smallest shoulders she'd ever seen. And that made your day for a year.
It did. It did. You know what? I still think about that now and then. Let's not kid ourselves, because that's probably still the smallest thing on me. Like, I'm a big girl. And
I agree with you that we know that self-care is very personal and individual. Maybe Connie can share what her self-care is that she's going through. But for me, being out in nature, so I walk to the park every day, and I'll sit out. There's a small pond there, and water is my inspiration, which is why we're called Healing Waters Global. It came from my experience of my healing came from looking over the ocean, and that whole story that's in the book. But that's what, just walking in nature, because then it's just me, my thoughts, and creator. It's like me and there's no distractions. We have 2 puppies in the house, right? Well, 1 dog and a puppy, and it's like it's like a zoo. But when I walk and I do my Zumba, that's one of my self-cares. And the walking, and walking is like a prayer, and it's also like meditation. So it really helps me tremendously. It just sets my day on an even keel. And then I do yoga too, not anything like heavy, but just a lot of stretching, just getting that blocked energy out. But I always tell the women in our sisterhood that self-care is also saying no.
Boundaries.
Right? And I'm going to pick on my buddy over here, my friend, because I'm always, when we're on the phone, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get off the phone. We're going to stop talking so that you can get some rest. But what did she just say she did? She didn't rest. She went on this, she went on that, and it's tough when you've been doing this for a long time, right, Laura? It's really hard to just say, okay, I'm not. And I was like begging her, because I said, both of us are talkers, right? I'm like, Laura, we got to get off because you need to rest. And what did she do? Now you just confessed. Now I know you didn't take advantage of that time.
No, and I actually wind up sleeping at the table. It's not the first time. And I've got 2 big sliding glass doors in front of me. So anyone who walked by was probably wondering why this girl was snoozing at the table and not in the bed that was clearly next to her. So.
You can't help yourself.
They're going to say that's a hard worker over there. That's all they're going to say.
But you also, in your book, you talk about balance. And as single women, we don't think about that, because we think about, well, I don't know about anybody else. I think when I was younger, and now that I'm getting older, I'm thinking differently. But when I was younger, I had to take care of myself. So that meant I had to make sure the car was in order, get to work, do this, do that. And for me, there was never any balance. I didn't know anything about balance. All I knew was I had to take care of Connie.
Yep.
And sometimes that self-care, a lot of times, let me tell the truth, a lot of times that self-care did not happen. It happened when the body shut down
Mm.
and I finally couldn't move. But
Oh,
I'm at a
I,
different
yep.
but I'm at a different stage now where um I just moved from Georgia. I've been there for 22 years and I moved back home to New Jersey. And I told Bernita one thing I heard the Lord meant say to me was, I want you to sit down.
Mm.
Now, normally I would fight that, but through all of my conversations and all that I've gone through those 22 years, guess what Connie is doing as a single woman? I'm sitting down. And I feel I'm still just a little tired, but I'm beginning to see um and feel the energy that I never had before. It was a different kind of energy. It
Mm.
was that energy that you use because you have to do what you have to do, if
It's
that makes
adrenaline.
sense.
It's adrenaline
Yes.
energy. It's coffee fuel.
Yes. So we as single women, we don't think about balance. We just keep going because that's all we know to do. Well, I don't know about anybody else, but that's me. That's what I did. But as I get older, I'm doing things a lot differently.
I do feel like
And you
that is
talk
the
about
beauty
that.
of that's the beauty of getting older too, is that we have that wisdom of being able to look back and go, well, that was nice then. That's not who I want to be now. That's not where I
Mm.
energetically want to be. You know, I I've worked 3, 4 jobs and career and side hustle for years. And I said, well, I'm gonna work hard while I'm young and I'm gonna do it now till I can't, and then till I can't hit. And it was like, oh, and then I was a forced stop. My body was like, you need to stop now.
Mhm.
And I kept stopping for a little bit, but that
Yeah.
urge and that programming,
Yeah.
like you need to keep forward, you need to keep going, it kept me from doing a full stop. And I'm actually in the progress. I just declared today, I just posted a notice, like I'm taking a few months break, like a full-on break. And I haven't really done that in years.
Good for
And so
you.
it's like, so it's part of walking the talk and
Mhm.
saying, okay, listening to my body, going, okay, I'm hitting a
Mhm.
crisis point.
Mhm.
I need to stop before it completely crashes.
Yeah.
Yes.
May I
Yes.
ask, Anne, would you mind sharing, like, as you've raised your daughter, uh, during that, I don't know if you have any other children, but during that time, did you make time for self-care, or did you just raise them and then, okay, now I'm in my 70s and I can just chill out? Or did you
You know,
do?
it's funny. I was just talking about that with another woman today, and I hyper focused because even though I had one child, it was full time work that was teaching. And a lot of times I was at work for 10, 12 hours. And then the weekend came, and then you did the laundry, and you did the groceries, and you did this, and you did that, and you did the other. And there was no time.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think I made time. We did, Jennifer, however, make time every week or every couple of weeks that after school we would go out for dinner and a movie or dinner and shopping or something like that. But
I think we found ways to sneak it in.
we found ways to sneak it in, but it wasn't easy and it wasn't as often as it should be. And right now, I think it's funny. We talk about self-care. Every Tuesday I go to chair yoga. And it started out with three of us going out to eat afterwards for breakfast or lunch because yoga was at 10:30. And then the teacher decided to join us. And then now we have another person joining us. And every week it's yoga and lunch or breakfast, whichever we so choose. And we sit there for like 2 hours talking and sharing ideas. And one of the things that came up is as you get older, your friends become very valuable because you may lose your spouse and you have your friends there to help you through that. Or
Amen.
your spouse may be sick or you may be sick. So the friendships become very important in self-care, in keeping the healthy attitude, but also when things get tough.
I also want to jump on that because that's a really good point. As a single person who has been through a couple of health crises, and who does live, far away from family, my friends have been absolutely vital, bringing me to doctor's appointments, bringing me places that you're not allowed. If you're coming off of anesthesia, you're not allowed to take an Uber. You're not allowed to take a cab. You need to have somebody you know. And so if you're single, that is really tricky. So your friends become your family.
Absolutely.
And I think, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, JD.
I think fostering those friendships, whether you are married or single, is so important, because if you're in a relationship, married or just long term, your friendships fill a different part of your life. Your significant other cannot be expected to be your sole source of happiness and fulfillment. That's just not fair to put on anyone.
Oh, and that's what we have. There's a bunch of us, and we've all said the same thing. In fact, our yoga instructor, oh my God, she's disgusting. She's 70 and she looks like she's 35, and her hair is incredible. She has been married for 30 years and just now decided to get a divorce because
Wow.
things were so bad she just couldn't live there anymore. And to hear her talk, she says, well, maybe I'm stupid. And I said, no, I said, I think you're one of the bravest people I've ever met to do that after 30 years. And you realize something's wrong there.
I cannot, first of all, Anne, I saw a glimpse of you. You have beautiful hair, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
No, you really do. But I cannot tell you how important having friends when you're really going through. And Laura is one, and so is Connie. I have a few other, like you said, a small group of people, because I'm big on that. I need to have honest friendships. That's Chewy. And have a circle of friends who I can be honest with, right? Who I can be vulnerable with. And Laura, Connie knows I lost 13 people in 2.5 years to COVID, right?
Oh.
3 brothers. Yeah, I got 2 sisters, 2 brothers. Nephew. It's even hard to talk about it. But the thing is, I don't know what I would have done. I have a strong faith and relationship with God. But in addition to that, being able to say, listen, this is really hard, and especially when you said something about this earlier, JD, or maybe Connie did, but people think because you do the work you do or who you are and how your persona, that you have it all together. But no, we're humans first, right?
Yes.
And that crushed me. I'm still going through the journey because grief is my friend. And I put aside going through the process of grief so I could get through the book, or else there's no way I would have gotten through it, But I've learned some things along the way that I hopefully will be sharing with other people who have suffered such multiple, they call it grief overload. And when I get through it, then I will help them. But I've been doing different things that really have blessed me. But my friends, Laura and Connie and the others, oh my God. I mean, I don't know, I could cry now when I think about it, because it can be very lonely when you're going through, JD, you mentioned that with the health issues, but loss and grief, oh my, it's terrible.
I'll tell you a
can't
quick
even imagine
story if
somebody
you don't
going
want
through it by themselves. I'm sorry?
I can tell you a quick story. I've been a seroptimist since, 2003, I believe. And one year I went to the spring conference, and they always had, the keynote speaker, and it was a man. And I sat there and said to myself, oh gosh, another keynote speaker. And sometimes they can be really good or really boring. Well, I didn't expect him to be as incredible as he was.
Oh, I remember you telling me about this one.
There was not by the time he was done, there was not a dry eye in the house. but he made some very good points. He was a doctor, and he had a wife and 2 daughters, and there was a home invasion. And whoever they were, they killed the daughter and the 2 daughters and the husband, I mean the wife, and they set fire to the house. The only thing that was left were the forget-me-not flowers. So he made seeds of those, and he sells them for the foundation because the girls were very involved in charities. But the point he made was that he didn't want to live anymore, and he had 2 very close friends who picked up the pieces, who took care of all of the business and everything that needed to be done under the circumstances, and became his crutch every day until he could do it on his own. And now he's remarried with a little boy. He still runs the foundation for his wife and daughters. But the powerful part of that speech, I cry every time I even think of it.
I'm tearing up just listening to it.
But the whole part of it was that without those friends, he never would have made it.
Yeah.
Right.
Friends are powerful.
Yeah, we need it. We were not meant to be alone in this journey, and even no one should suffer alone. You know, we just should not suffer, because that really said. I saw where Michelle Obama. I'm waiting to see the interview where she talks about living with low-grade depression, right? And that's
Oh no,
yeah, low
she's
grade.
my hero. I love her.
Yeah, and you know, that's why, again, think you have it all together, but you don't know what people are going through until they take off the mask and say and show their vulnerability. And I give her credit for having the courage to come out and say that, right? Because you know, people are, you know, you're a celebrity of anybody or any major figure, you're going to be attacked for being nice.
Okay. I'm going to be politically incorrect here, but I'm going to say Trump was enough to give anybody low-grade depression.
He gave the country low grade
Yes,
depression, and
he
right?
really did.
Not even low grade. It was high. We're all reeling from
I
it.
cannot tell you how many people have said to me, I don't sleep at night during his reign.
Yeah.
But again, part of that is understanding, and I think stepping back, and no matter who our political leaders are, you know, no matter what side of the aisle you come from,
I just want them to work together.
But we also need to stop putting people up on pedestals. We need to stop putting people up. I don't care what political affiliation, that's where the trouble comes in. The moment you put somebody on a pedestal of either side, that's when there's trouble. And I think whether it's our social media icons, or I'm putting in air quotes, but you guys can't see, thought leaders, gurus, you know, I once, more than once, I've had somebody refer to me as a guru, and I'm like, absolutely not. Need to stop that, because that is not the role I want to fill. Because once you put somebody above yourself as they are better than me, they know more. No, we are all on you know, and we're all on our individual journeys, but on the other end, we're all on the same journey here, just different phases at different times. And it's important to know that, as we talked about earlier, nobody has it all together. Nobody's perfect. Nobody is better than you, because all it takes is one moment for that person to be right where you are.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Jennifer, JD, I'm so sorry. We do need to kind of wrap up things here, but I was kind of hoping if we could take a moment and just, you know, do one of your release techniques.
Absolutely.
Get time to fit that in.
Yes, I'll do a quickie one. That's one that I use all the time for myself and for people that I work with. I'm going to ask if you can mute. This way, if we have any like phones or anything, just close your eyes, take a deep breath. Take a moment to give yourself this gift of time and energy. See your body as light and as energy. And in that light and energy, you may see different cords, thoughts, programs that you are ready to release because they no longer serve your highest good. No need to be specific. In fact, allow yourself the ability and grace to release anything and everything from your physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, any layer of yourself, anything that no longer serves your highest good. And as you release with forgiveness, release with gratitude for lessons learned, and release with love. And as these things are releasing from you, see those places being filled with light. As they leave a void or space, see it being filled with light. One of my favorite images is seeing beautiful golden balloons, putting those things, those energies, those cords into these balloons and seeing them lift up, rising up and away, and allowing yourself to fill with joy as you see these golden balloons rising and leaving you, and seeing those spaces just fill with light. Taking a deep breath, setting the intention that your energy and your higher self will continue to release into these balloons until the last item is gone that is no longer serving your highest good. Seeing yourself surrounded by beautiful white light, seeing your energy strong and bright and clear, and leaving that light in place until you set a new circle or until you put a new one in place again. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. There are so many ways that we hold energy. We hold other people's energy. We will tell people, I love you forever, even though forever is a long time for some people. And it's okay to let go of those promises and those energies and cords. It's also just as important to call back the pieces of yourself, but that's something we can save for another day. Calling back all those pieces that you gave away to other people so that you can be your whole, complete self. Thank you so much for having me on.
You.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, joining us. And just one last thing, if you have like 5 tips maybe that you could round out the evening with, that you could, that you could share with us or leave with us.
Okay, 5 tips. 1, electronics off. We talked about that. Take time. It doesn't have to be every day. Take time on a regular basis to turn the electronics off, step away. 2, get out into nature. If you can't get out into nature, bring it to you. There's so many soundtracks. I love listening to rain or ocean on YouTube, and you can set that on loop. They have 8, 10, 12-hour tracks. Some of them are live that you can just listen
Yes.
and have the nature come into you. 3, find your tribe and group of people that you can trust. And if there is somebody that you realize you no longer trust, it is okay to let them go from your circle, and it doesn't have to have a ceremony. Be like, this was fun, and then just slowly fade, and that's okay. 4, learn to listen to your body and your mind on a more
Yes.
regular basis. And the last one, which we didn't really cover, and I'm not going to take credit for this because it was from a comedian from the 90s. I loved her. She was, I think, a motivational speaker as well. And she said, stop shitting all over yourself. We should all the time. I should do this, I should be here, I should be that. Stop that. It does not serve you. Those shoulds only serve to stop your progress and to stop you from feeling the blessing of who you are and where you are in that moment.
Amen.
Amen on that. Thank you, Jennifer. I just wanted to let everybody know, thank you for all who have joined us. And if you would like to, please join us on February 22nd at 7 p.m. That's next Wednesday. That's going to be our next She Reads podcast, where we are featuring the women authors of Carpe Stylum. That's a writing group that I myself and Dr. Mitchell is a part of. And it's our anthology book called Words Have Wings. My co-host Luana Cheney is a part of that, and there will be several women authors who will be sharing their poems and their short stories. So you definitely do not want to miss that. And if you yourself, or if you know of someone who's a woman or a girl survivor of sexual abuse, and it can go along with lots of other things such as domestic violence or HIV. But if you are a survivor and you are interested in seeking help or looking for a group of women, a sisterhood of women who can help you and support you along the way, please check us out at www.healingwatersglobal.org. One of us would love to talk to you and work with you and help you along the way. And it's a safe place, and it's a wonderful place where we all come together and we support each other, no matter where you are in your journey, whether you're just beginning or whether you're coming towards the end. But we're there to help you, and we would love to have you check us out. And so please do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and please have a wonderful week. And remember, self-care is important. Please take care of yourself.
Amen.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks.